Hey everyone, and welcome to the Fitness Group podcast. This episode is brought to you by Lifelines. Leading the line is Hydro OG, an approach to functional hydration. It keeps you replenished, sharp and ready. With flavours like mango and pineapple or cherries and mixed berries, it's hydration with purpose designed to support energy, clarity and recovery throughout the day. Now, Lifelines also elevate your training with pre-workout gummies for fast, clean energy and focus, and their creatine gummies giving you a full daily dose to support strength, power, and everyday mental performance. Now, if you want supplements that fit your routine and actually deliver, check out Lifelines. Link is in the show notes. Now, over to today's episode. Right, George, mate, good to see you again. Thanks a lot for your time. It's always a pleasure. Before we get into the main conversations today, for those that don't necessarily know who you are, what you do you mind just giving a little bit of a journey of yourself and kind of where you're currently doing, and then we'll get into the main conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm George Thompson. I am currently a sports therapist and head of athlete development at a charity called the Matt Hampson Foundation, which I think we'll get onto in a little bit. But I probably took a slightly different route into the kind of fitness world than most do. So I'm degree qualified sports therapist, and have then moved into kind of the world of health and fitness rather than being too clinical.
Yeah.
I, after getting my degree, I have a real, again, already going off on tangents, and we've only moved,
which is good, mate. That's start as we mean to go on.
I have a real gripe with doing courses for the sake of doing courses.
Okay, yeah.
So even though I do a lot of teaching PTs and things like that, I haven't actually done my level 3 PT.
Okay.
Because I didn't feel it was necessary.
Right.
After doing degree stuff, I went and then did, like, I've done my British weightlifting coaching qualification and other bits.
Yeah.
That supplemented what I had, rather than going and doing what I felt was unnecessary, I guess.
What, in terms of, and I agree with you, in terms of like but why, what's the, let's say the decision making in terms of what courses you want to do and what is the outcome? Is it something that's just interested you, or is there an end goal to say, I can then provide this service?
I think that varies. It's always with an end goal of coming out armed with more than I went in with.
Okay.
I guess it's always wanting to either come out having learnt something new, having learnt a new skill, having learnt something I can then implement, rather than going and coming out and being like, oh, well, I knew all that anyway. Now I've got a piece of paper that says I knew it, but I knew it anyway.
Yeah, sure.
It's always actually trying to find something that is going to actually add value.
Yeah.
From the knowledge I gain, rather than just ticking the box. If that makes sense.
Is there any courses that you've done that haven't not necessarily ticked the box, like come away, but have been actually not very relevant with what you wanted to do? It wasn't what you expected?
Yes and no. I think I've been and done some courses that are very aimed at what we call MSK therapy. Musculoskeletal stuff, whether that be shoulders, whether that be whatever. The people I typically work with, a lot of the time, that's not all that relevant.
Okay.
And actually, but fortunately now I think I know enough that I can take the little nuggets from it and then apply it. So even though all of it's maybe not relevant, there's pockets here or there that I can apply in different ways that then does.
What got you into health and fitness? Why did you want to start and make a career of it, educate yourself? Talk to me about that.
I think I've always wanted to do something that helped people.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to leave the world a better place than I found it, fundamentally. And sport and physical activity has always been a huge part of my life growing up. And so I wanted to use both my love of health and fitness and my want to help people, kind of what I do now, and the kind of therapies, but then the coaching side of stuff kind of combines both of those, really.
Is that what kind of pulled you into, let's say, this specific area of disability within sport and fitness, because of the need to and the want to kind of help people specifically?
Yeah, I think when I was at uni, when I was studying, there was always this thought of, wouldn't it be cool to work with like amputees? Wouldn't it be cool to work with a slightly different group, someone where it's a bit more challenging, where you have to think about things a little bit more? Like, I like being challenged as well. So working in that population where actually, I have to think about things and approach things a little bit differently and be a bit more creative was also then of interest.
Yeah.
So it again brings those back in. But even on top of that, so my father-in-law has a spinal cord injury.
Okay.
So I have seen kind of firsthand the impact that kind of injury and disability has on someone. And actually then as I was learning, I noticed that actually I've got skills, knowledge that could help here.
Sure.
Whether that's him specifically or other people in his kind of situation, I can make that better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't, it's not an injury we can fix, but I can sure help you optimize things so that
absolutely
life is a bit easier, life's a bit better.
Was it something that you were interested in anyway, or was, you know, the injury with your father-in-law that kind of then?
I guess it opened my eyes to that world existing.
Yeah.
I guess like it's not an injury that you necessarily come across that often. If I didn't know him, would I know that world was even out there? Maybe not.
Yeah. Which
again goes into me doing things like this. It's trying to actually show people that this world exists, these people exist, and actually we're really well placed to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Talk to us about Matt Hampson Foundation, a little bit of the history of it, how it all started, what your role is.
So we are a really special charity. I adore Matt. So Matt Hampson was a rugby player, still is. Let's start that again. So Hambo was a rugby player for Leicester Tigers in England.
Yep.
He was training with the England under-20s in 2005 and a scrum collapsed and he broke his neck. So he was left following that, unable to move from kind of shoulders down.
Okay.
Uses a ventilator to breathe and found, I think he often says he found a real lack of support after that. He found that there wasn't people there to help him.
Okay.
That he was he went to rehab facilities where there was older people who had strokes, where there was people with Parkinson's, where it was environments he didn't enjoy being in.
Okay.
And he felt like there wasn't anyone else there who wanted to still go on and live life and had this long life ahead of them to lead and wanted to live that to the fullest.
Yeah.
So he then started the Matt Hampson Foundation to help other people in a similar situation to what he found himself in at 20 years old. So Hambo was, I was only 8, 9 when Hambo was injured.
Okay.
So
okay, yeah.
I obviously didn't know him, even though a big rugby guy.
Yeah.
Didn't know him, but he was apparently very, very good player. But he's made such a big difference to the world now as the founder of the charity than he ever would have done as a kind of international rugby player.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you ask him, he's lived a much more impactful life now than he ever would have done. And that's just because of his want and drive to go and make the world a better place, really.
Yeah.
And help people.
And is it and again, sorry if I've cut in, but is it the foundation, is the overall goal is to kind of spread awareness like across the UK in terms of, like you say, like certain facilities or certain the way people I'll say it like respect people with injuries?
I think
or
that's not necessarily the main goal.
Yeah.
It's become something we do.
Yeah.
But the fundamental goal is to support young people who sustain life-changing injuries.
Yeah.
So if you are between 16 and 45 and you sustain any kind of life-changing injury, whether that's a spinal cord injury, a brain injury, an amputation, anything that means you can't go back to your life the way it was, we'll help you, we'll support you. So we've got a rehab centre in Leicestershire, which you've been
brilliant.
to, and it's amazing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Where we have a clinical team where we support our beneficiaries with whatever they need to live a long, happy, fulfilled life, really. Yeah,
and talk to me, because obviously I've had the pleasure of being invited and spending some time at the facility with you guys. My example of it, and to the point where you know Matt was talking about in terms of the facilities he was going to, it's very much, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the feeling that I've got of it is a little bit of a retreat facility in terms of how it's set out, like aesthetically, how it's looking and stuff like that. Was that always the kind of goal to try and remove from that and be different?
Yeah, we've kind of gone out of our way for it all to feel as non-clinical as it possibly can.
Yeah.
There's obviously a few things we still need to make it work. We have ceiling track hoists and we have all the accessibility features that we need, but it all feels premium, feels nice, feels comfortable, feels like somewhere you want to be, rather than that there's this weird shade of blue that you only see in hospitals and in rehab settings. And we were like, no, none of that is coming anywhere near us. Yeah. So it's all designed to be as comfortable, as welcoming, as inviting as it can be.
Yeah.
So that our beneficiaries feel like it's somewhere they want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everything we do goes into that. And everything we do is to try and help people live
Yeah.
a long, happy, fulfilled life.
And talk to me about like the setup there as well in terms of the teams that you've got, and even really what's like a, let's say a normal day, but like a regular day. Go through that with me.
I'll start with our rehab team. So we've got 3 specialist neurophysios. So they're fantastic. Between the 3 of them, they have probably 50 years of experience now working with the kind of injuries that we work with. We've got a personal trainer called Sooty, who himself has a disability.
Okay.
He's brilliant for our beneficiaries. To see someone who's been through similar challenges and be able to speak to about that is really, really helpful.
Yeah, that's important.
We've got an S&C coach, a counsellor, and a yoga instructor. So we try and be kind of a holistic rehab team. We're not just the physical. We're all of it.
And is it all full time? Are they there like, you know?
We are there 9 to 5 Monday to Friday. Some of our staff are part time here or there, but we have a full time presence there. I'm full time. We have a few other guys that are, and we then have a few different teams within that. We've got what we call our life goals team, so we help people into work or training or education.
Yeah.
Again, trying to look at all aspects of life and actually what do you need to live a fulfilled life.
Yeah. And
actually a lot of people gain that kind of fulfillment and purpose through things like work and education. So actually we help people into that where we can.
Okay.
We've got a lot of very generous corporate supporters who then can help us facilitate kind of like placements and work experience and things like that.
Yeah.
It's more than just the physical rehab, even though that's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Probably sport and physical activity is a cornerstone of what we do, but it's not all of it.
Okay.
Like, life's bigger than that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we try and it's helping with work, it's relationships, it's all of that. Even as kind of clinicians, as physios, we might work with people on, actually, I want to go and be able to have these relationships or be able to do this so I can, and we will help with those kind of practices.
Yeah, because it definitely has that, like I say, like the retreat, but also from a social club feel as well, where people can like spend a few hours there after whatever they're doing and stuff like that. So yeah, was that an important thing to put in as well? Yeah,
the social aspects of that were probably, that's where we started. I think the foundation, before I was on board, the foundation started almost as a support group in a pub where the people with similar injuries met up and spoke about life.
Yeah.
And actually, so maintaining that was really important.
Yeah.
Bringing people together, making sure people don't feel isolated and alone.
Sure.
And giving them a space where they can ask difficult questions. They can have what might be uncomfortable conversations, but it's all normal. We'll talk about bladder and bowel function. We'll talk about sexual function. We'll talk about all the stuff that maybe is a bit taboo in other circles is perfectly normal.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a really big part of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk to me about, I mean, you're working so closely now with people that in some cases, in a lot of cases, have life-changing injuries.
Yep.
Has that kind of changed your perspective on health and fitness generally?
Absolutely. I think particularly growing up, you see health and fitness as looking good on a beach. You see it as being strong, as being the fittest you can be. You don't necessarily see how health and fitness can help improve your quality of life in that way. Not as someone who has always been relatively fit growing up.
Yeah.
I've never had struggles where I've not been fit enough to get out of bed or do what I want to do, go where I want to go.
Yeah.
But now you see people that I work with who, there's one guy who I don't really see anymore, but this still gets me even now. He C6 spinal cord injury, so broke his neck. Snowboarding, was off piste, fell off a cliff, broke his neck. Was in hospital over his youngest daughter's first birthday. He came to us and he said, I really want to be able to get back in my chair from the floor so I can get on the floor and play with my kids. And so we then went about, from this level of injury he has no function in his hands, so his hands doesn't really have any control of, and he has very weak triceps. So at C6 your triceps are affected. Really good biceps, but triceps were really weak. So we did lots to try and work on his tricep strength so that he was strong enough to get back into his wheelchair. There's a lot of technique that goes into that we taught him as well. And then after probably a year of working on it, he then could get back into his wheelchair from the floor, so he can get on the floor and play with the kids now, which is amazing. Like, that's life. That's how health and fitness that's the impact I make and we can make as a profession.
Yeah.
It's just all too rare at the moment, really, that people feel they can make that kind of impact on people.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, you at the start of that question in particular, on that point of the conversation, you talked about assumptions on what health and fitness was before you got involved in that. So where do you think that effect is having with people, but also from a like, let's say, a social perspective, in terms of, let's say, general members, people that don't have injuries and people that do unfortunately have had an injury, but also from a fitness industry perspective as well, and where could we do better?
I think there's still a feeling, particularly from those not in the industry, that it's a bit elitist, I guess. That you need to be. How many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I'm not fit enough to go to the gym"?
Yeah.
Or that kind of thing, that people feel there's a level they need to reach before they can access it.
Yeah.
And actually, I think we need to be better at breaking down those misconceptions, that actually this is a space for everyone, regardless of disability, regardless of level of activity. Actually, this is a space that everyone can come into and improve, be better, live longer, healthier lives as a result. And actually, if we need to do more to make sure people know that they will be or should be welcomed regardless. There's probably some circles.
Do you think that's where the industry is falling? I know I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent now, but where do you think specifically, not specifically, but your just general view, is that where the fitness industry is falling short in one aspect, in terms of letting everyone know that it's for everybody? Because we're in the fitness industry. We've just been talking off air about events. We see, and we're all saying the same thing all the time, but is it implemented is another discussion. But then also from and we've talked about this as well, from a coaching perspective and a facility perspective, it's probably two different things. They're probably saying that they are more equipped for people with disabilities, when in actual reality is not the case.
And I think that's the key to it, actually. Even if let's say the industry was completely accessible, there was no accessibility issues whatsoever, which isn't the case, but let's pretend for a minute it was. Even if the perception is that the industry is inaccessible, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how accessible it is. If the perception of the people that need it is that it's not accessible to me, they're not going to access it. And then the accessibility that is there doesn't matter. I guess on a bit of a tangent, talking about disability on a wider scale first, do you have any idea how many people in the UK are disabled?
No idea.
No? Go on. Give me a guess. A percentage of the UK population.
The whole UK population. 10%?
24.
Wow.
Almost 1 in 4 people.
Wow.
In the last census, almost 1 in 4 people report having a disability. It's almost 16 million people.
That's shocking.
Actually,
I thought it was way lower than that.
And what gym that you know of has a member base where 1 in 4 of their members is disabled?
I don't know any.
None, exactly.
Yeah.
You ask even the kind of best public sector providers, who in theory should be the leaders of it. Should be representative of the general population. I can almost guarantee none of them have 1 in 4 members have a disability. And if we want to be truly representative, that's what it.
Always the question is, and again, if I'm speaking out of term, I apologise, but in terms of like, they could have 1 in 4, but do they necessarily know that?
Exactly. Are they doing enough to make sure they understand the needs of their members? Probably not. And if they're not understanding the needs of their members well enough, are those members then going to stay around even if they do get brave enough to go? I think it's important to think about that. It's an awful lot of people. If we take what's the average, the kind of membership percentage at a gym of the population, what, about 16%? Is it something like that? It's a little bit less, like 13. It's around there, isn't it?
Yeah, around there.
I remember I worked it out with a good friend, Glenn Thurgood at Leisure DB. I used to work for him. Good friend now. We worked it out that if you take that percentage and apply it to disabled people in the UK, it's almost £100 million as a kind of, if you take 13-14%, whatever it is, of that 16 million, at the average UK gym membership cost of about £35 a month, it's about £100 million.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money that we're currently not marketing to.
We're
not really even trying to trying to get.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's, again, education? It's a culture thing?
I think, like you said, I don't think people know it's there.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think you didn't know that there was that many people
No, I didn't.
in the UK that were disabled. So actually, if people don't know it's there, they're not going to go after it. I think it's hard. It's harder than working with what maybe you think of as a typical member.
Yeah.
There's a bit more to it. I really like that challenge, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of coaches would really enjoy that challenge of doing something a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think there's also wider societal perceptions, and stop me if I get too deep, but around the inability of disabled people.
Yeah.
And actually disabled people aren't going to want to go to a gym. Why would they want to go to a gym? Whether they would always assume that even in the parasport world, most wheelchair rugby training sessions that I know of are held during the week, during the day.
Mm.
And that boils down to the perception, even in the parasport world, that people don't have jobs.
Yeah.
That people aren't working so they can come to training in the middle of the day when the sports hall isn't busy.
Yeah, when it's not big.
So even amongst disabled people and parasport world, there's still this perception that people don't work and people are somehow less able and less useful. And that's not the case. I mean, when you look at political discourse at the moment around disability and the way that they are spoken about as being a burden for how expensive PIP is, for example. PIP's an in-work benefit anyway, so PIP doesn't matter if you work or not, you get it. Which, again, on that note, on average, it costs about £1,600 a month more to be disabled than it does to be able-bodied.
Wow.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
In terms of all the adaptations you need, in terms of all the healthcare costs, in terms of if you were to get a lightweight manual wheelchair, go on, give me a guess what you think that'd be. So a custom built wheelchair that fits you, that is light enough for you to get in and out of the car.
I mean, I wouldn't know, but it's definitely in the thousands, right?
The kind of a leading brand.
Yeah.
So a brand called RGK, which is probably the most common one I see at the moment.
Okay.
Between £6,000 and £8,000.
Wow.
And you probably need one every 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't have a spare £2,000 a year around to just fill a wheelchair.
No, even to plan for that, every few years, I need to have this amount of money.
And so actually, it's expensive. That's why PIP exists.
Yeah.
PIP exists in theory to cover the costs the extra costs of life as being disabled. You'll catch some of my language around. I will always try to refer to disabled people rather than people with disability or whatever.
Okay.
Might sound pedantic, but I think it's an important thing to make people aware of.
Yeah.
There's something called the social model of disability.
Okay.
So that's how we try and think about things now, and I'll explain that in a minute. But traditionally, we probably look at what's called the medical model. So that says that this person has this condition, and therefore we need to fix that, or they're the problem, or whatever. They're the one with the issue. Whereas the social model says that the person isn't the problem, the inaccessible society and environment is. A wheelchair user is no less able to get somewhere as I am if there's a ramp, for example.
Yeah.
And actually, so that person is disabled by the environment. They aren't inherently disabled and have that disability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's an interesting way to try and get people to think, to actually say that, look, we all have a societal responsibility to make the world as accessible as we can. Yeah. And actually, if we do enough to break down those barriers, less people will therefore be disabled by the society we live in.
Yeah.
Again, some big picture stuff.
No, it's really good. It's really interesting.
And it's just not stuff that's ever spoken about. Really.
Yeah. What about the education side? Let's talk about like personal training for a second, or even group instructors. Obviously, you're a specialist and you've educated yourself, and you're in a specific foundation with the specific facilities, but not every coach is going to do that, and they work in regular gyms in inverted commas. In terms of the coaching aspect of it, is the gap as big as maybe people are making out? And if I use an example, and I think we spoke to about this when I first came and saw you, in terms of like a group class setting, all able-bodied, regulars every week, same instructor, and then one day someone in a wheelchair, and the coach automatically panics.
Yep.
Like, haven't got a clue what I'm doing. I need to, and they're probably wrong in I need to have a specialist certificate.
Yep.
So unfortunately, you can't take the class.
Yep.
That's obviously wrong in itself. But how big is the gap in your opinion? Is it as wide as coaches maybe think it is?
I don't think so.
Right.
Look, the body's still the body.
Yeah.
It's still all the principles of specific adaptation to impose demand, all those kind of principles we talk about, they still exist. They're still the same. The body still responds in the same way.
Yeah.
Just maybe parts of it don't work. Or there's maybe a few other specific things we need to know. But you know who's going to know about all those? The person.
Yeah.
Like it really brings to light, I think the best, when we look at the best PTs anyway, the biggest kind of thing we look at, one of the most important factors for being the best PT you can be is that you can communicate with people. That just is even more important when you're working with this population. The person who's going to know the most about their body and their condition is them.
Yeah.
Just speak to them about it. I think the worst coaches and PTs when it comes to working with disabled people are the ones who pretend to or think they know everything.
Yeah.
Even when they maybe don't.
Yeah.
That's where things potentially get a bit dangerous. It's actually
Carry on, it's all right.
It's kind of admitting where you don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's then asking for help where you don't know it, whether that be from them, whether that be from someone like me, whether that be from wherever. And actually, the second that you can say, actually, I'm not sure, but let's figure it out together, is the second you build relationships with people and you help people get where they want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, we're both agreement that education is important and the right education. But
100%.
if I take a coach that has just qualified as a PT with their level 3,
Yep.
is there tools within that course that should really give them the confidence to work with people that have disabilities rather than, like I gave an example of, they're pushing back on, like, I'm not specifically qualified, all of that stuff. Or, yes, obviously, level 3, we've talked about this in the past. I've talked about it with a few people. There is elements where things could be improved. But fundamentally, if someone comes away as a qualified PT, they should have the confidence.
Yeah, when you qualify with your level 3, they don't say you can work with everyone apart from disabled people.
Yeah, very true.
You know,
very true.
Like, you are still qualified to work with those people. You just, if you've got a solid anatomy and physiology knowledge, you know a little bit about biomechanics, and you can talk to people, you're 95% of the way there already.
Yeah.
Then you bring into the fact that actually knowledge is easier to find now than it's ever been.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I can go and look at, if I get someone who come to me and they say, oh, I've got this spinal cord injury, I can know what that means and therefore how they're probably going to present within an hour, because knowledge is and information is that accessible now.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not as good as official qualifications in things, but it's a start.
Yeah.
And then the biggest thing that I teach, I think we'll get onto this when we look at the course that we're running together.
Yeah.
It's creativity. It's being able to look at the situation, look at the person in front of you, apply your existing anatomy, physiology knowledge, and just think about things a little bit differently. The body's still the body. It still responds in a very similar way. You just have to look at the picture a little bit differently to how you would as a working with an able-bodied person. You're probably not going to find Instagram pages with exercises with specific names that you're going to do to work on things. You need to understand how people move, what it is they want to achieve, and then figure out what muscles they need to get stronger to get there, what movements they need to get stronger in to get there, and help them get there, really. Yeah,
so in essence, I suppose in a lot of ways, to simplify it and for this conversation, it's more just making it more hyper-personalised than
Absolutely.
Ever.
Same you would for anyone.
Yeah.
Everything that it takes to be a great coach with disabled people is everything it takes to be a great coach, full stop.
Yeah.
It's all the same qualities.
Yeah.
You just have to be confident enough to apply them.
So what, in your opinion, where do you see like the most common mistakes, let's say, coaches are making, even though they're well-intentioned? Yep. What are you seeing on a familiar pattern or regular basis?
One, it's probably not educating themselves enough initially around, actually, if you don't understand how the body works, let's be honest, you do need a relatively good anatomy knowledge to understand disability.
Yep.
Do all level 3 PTs have that? Maybe not. Maybe, should they?
not.
Probably.
Yep.
And I guess that probably brings us on to the quality of some level 3 PT courses, and you can go out and get qualified within 2 weekends.
Yep.
And actually, is that good enough? Maybe not. And then it's coming back to what I said before around thinking they know everything, or being too scared to admit that they don't. I think it takes a level of confidence. I think I've heard people say this when I was at the start of my career, but it's only probably recently that I actually appreciate it, that there is a strength in knowing that and accepting that you don't know it, and then asking for help and figuring it out. I think actually I've got myself in some holes in the past when I was at the start of my career where I thought I did and acted like I did.
Yeah.
And that made things more difficult. Whereas actually, accepting that, no, I don't know it, but actually let's go and figure it out and do it together.
Yeah.
That will get you an awful lot further than pretending you do and then getting caught.
Absolutely. Before we move on to talking about the partnership and the course that you've mentioned that you've been creating, which is fantastic. I can't wait to chat more about it. From your own perspective now, you've been in the industry for a long time and education's always been important. So for your own development and your own interest, where's that kind of leaning to now?
I'm fascinated by... I've got really into psychology recently.
Okay.
Psychology, sociology, of understanding better. Again, I'm at risk of going on a really controversial tangent here, Nath, but...
That's all good.
Talking about... People will often say about keeping politics out of sport, out of activity or whatever.
Yeah.
I believe firmly everything is political. Everything is politics. The streets being safe enough to go for a run on for women and girls is politics. The funding for disability is politics. The acceptance of disabled people, women, anyone who looks different in environments like a gym is politics.
Yeah.
And so actually, I want to learn more around the sociology of that and actually how I can be better to try and influence wider discussions around society, politics, inclusion, and just making the world
just so you can understand it better, or something that you then want to really kind of advocate anyway.
Again, I think then it goes back to, if I know more about it, I can do more about it. It then helps me try and make the world a better place. Actually, if come the end of my life I can know that I've done my best to leave the world a better place than I found it, I'll be happy. And I think now I'm at a point where I can try and do that on a slightly bigger scale with things like this, with wider accessibility in health and fitness. It's kind of a big probably niche for me, even with things like HYROX or other organizations where actually I can help shape inclusivity in health and fitness on a wider scale. It all makes the world slightly better for disabled people, and that's fundamentally all I want.
Talk to me about this partnership, let's say, that you've got with HYROX. HYROX is obviously probably the key one now from a health and fitness perspective in terms of participation. So how have you got involved? What do you do with them?
So everything I've done with them at the moment has been kind of completely voluntary because I think it's the right thing to do. And I'm lucky enough that the foundation, I can kind of use my time there to do those kind of things. And it was probably a few years ago now, I reached out to them when they were still relatively small, I guess, compared to what they are now. I reached out and said, look, your format really suits inclusivity. The consistency of it, the whole environment actually really suits accessibility, inclusivity, disability. I know about that. You know about HYROX. I want to work with you to help make this better. So then we sat down and they said, yeah, cool. We want to learn. We want to get better. We've had a few people approach us about it, but actually we don't. And that was the perfect example of, they said, we don't know enough about it. Help us get there. Which is always refreshing, rather than people saying, yeah, we've got it. Don't worry about it. And then it's not done properly. They took it on board. They said, yeah, let's go. And we went and did it. And then, now there is 8 or 9 different classifications. There's still big holes in what they do. I created it with them so I was quite a big hand in like the seated division, so the kind of wheelchair users, just because that was my speciality. They had a few other people who were then involved in some of the others. I made it, the idea was that this is to make people feel like they can come and take part. it was a participation tool. It's become a bit of a kind of competitive format.
Okay.
And they're then missing a few of the key points that you need for
Right.
competition in parasport,
Yeah.
which hopefully they change. Hopefully it gets better. But like, you need a really rigid classification structure.
Okay.
Because fundamentally, the whole point of parasport is that we exclude some to include others. And actually, if you don't have, it's wild, people don't know this happens, but there's something called intentional misrepresentation in the world of parasport, where it's basically people intentionally misrepresenting how disabled they are to then get into classification they shouldn't be in to give them a competitive advantage. Without
how big is that? Because like to hear that, I'd think, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, but is that quite a thing then?
Yeah. There's in parasport particularly, there's a lot of processes in place to try and prevent it.
Yeah.
It's then where you get some, and I'm gonna get cancelled, Nath, but you know, here we are.
Here we are. I'll be cancelled with you.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
You get people who maybe compete in certain divisions, and then there's videos on Instagram of them doing movements that they shouldn't be able to do, given the classification they compete in.
Right.
And actually, without a really rigid classification infrastructure, you can't catch it. Like, you don't have the process in place to stop those people getting there. And it's so much harder to do that retroactively when they're already in the space.
Yeah.
Much easier to stop them at the door. I'm not here to police who should be in what classification, what division, but I think that there's a reason why not that many world-class para athletes take part in competitive fitness events at the moment.
Okay.
And I think that the lack of a really rugged classification infrastructure is a big part of that.
A big part of it.
That they feel it's not going to be fair, so why bother?
Okay.
Is
there any specific events? Sorry to
go on.
A little bit. Is there any specific events for parasports, like in the health and fitness? Like amateur run or anything like that? Because again, ignorance for me. I don't really see it.
No, there's a few. So there's I've got some very good friends now at an organisation called Wadaptive who run a. Hey Nige, how you doing? They run a pairs disability able-bodied competition where you partner up one able-bodied person, one person with a disability, and you compete together in a pair against. It's kind of semi-competitive, I guess.
Yeah.
Just it's supposed to be that anyone could come and take part. It's how I initially got a lot of our guys into the world of competitive fitness, which then has led us to kind of the CrossFit Games and other stuff. But there's that. I run something called the Hambo Throwdown, so that's the only all wheelchair user fitness competition in the country. So I run that once a year, every summer. We're going to be we're just nailing down a date at the moment, but it'll be August sometime that we run that. And so there's a few dotted around, and there's an organisation called Adapt All or Nothing, that's run by kind of again another kind of friend of the foundation, a guy called Tom Green, who does lots. So he then has worked with, have they done their own competitions, but also worked with organisations called like Wadapalooza and other really big competitions to implement adaptive classifications, categories, competition, all that. So it does exist. It's still not as prevalent as it should be, but hopefully there's some kind of big rollers in the industry who are discussing trying to implement it,
and you're
getting better,
leading the charge with the volunteering to help out.
And then hopefully there's going to be some big news in the near future that there's other people who are starting to implement it as well, which would be good. Again, I think particularly in the world of coming back to disability, the shift towards performance is really positive. I think when you get people there's a lot of issues with like body image and all that kind of thing when your body doesn't look a certain way because of your disability. Focusing on what it can do, how you can perform, is a really positive change for a lot of people. So I think that's where the kind of competitive fitness world of CrossFit, HYROX, all of that is really, really good for this population. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Let's talk about our partnership. We got together through my colleague Erin, who met you at an event, and then again we came and spent some time at your fantastic facility to talk about and help really raise awareness in the education course that you've created. So just talk to me about that course, why you did it, give me an overview of the course, and then we can continue the conversation.
So I get the why is probably the best place to start.
Yes.
I was seeing a lot of people who I was working with who were saying, look, I want to be fitter, I want to be better, but I don't feel that I can go to the gym and find a space that, one, I'm going to be able to access consistently, and two, be able to find a PT who understands me and understands what I need. So I was like, and that was something we heard time after time after time. My colleague, Sophie, one time wanted to go to the gym with her sister. So she is a full-time wheelchair user. She's silver medalist at CrossFit Games. Like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
She went to go to, I think I've told you this story before.
I think, did we meet her? Was she?
You would have met Sophie.
Briefly.
So she wanted to go to the gym with her sister, bought a day pass for a local kind of chain gym, and it gave her 7 days to go and use this guest pass from when she bought it. On the 7th day, they then actually found a time to go, so they went to go. They turned up at the gate, and because she ticked that she needed the accessible entrance, because it was one of these where you have to put the code in to go through the pod, so she needed the separate entrance to go through. They said, because you've done that, you need to have an induction before you can come in. The only person who can do the induction for you isn't in until tomorrow, so sorry, but you can't come in.
Wow. I remember that.
And those are stories we hear that happens. And actually, so I was like, look, this isn't good enough. If there's no other industry, no other space, would you basically be able to tell someone, sorry, you can't come in because you're in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
But for somehow people do.
Yeah.
And it still happens. And I was like, look, I've got the knowledge and the skills to make this a bit better and to break down some of these barriers and to better educate people around what disability is and actually how well placed we are as an industry to help with it. So I was like, let's do it. So last summer of 2025, I ran a couple of just one-day seminars where people could just come and learn from me and our team around what disability is, how we approach it, and actually how as a fitness professional you can make a bit more of an impact. And then I was then invited to go and speak at an event run by a guy called Graham Hind in the north of England, which is then where I met Erin. So I was there talking about disability and this, and then Erin kind of came and grabbed me and said, I think we can do something with you on this. So then we sat down, we expanded that seminar that I'd written for the one day to kind of be a 2-day course that gave people all of the knowledge and skills that they need to go and hopefully work confidently with disabled people.
Yeah, so would you say that's the learning objective overall, is to give people the confidence, and we've talked about this earlier, the confidence to go and go back into their club. Not necessarily to say, I'm now a specialist, but to kind of go in there as an but have a new confidence in people with disabilities that would come into the club. Yeah.
So I don't teach any new knowledge per se. It's not a long enough time really for me to teach you everything you need to know about spinal cord injuries, brain injuries and all that. I teach you enough so that you can apply the knowledge you already have to these different populations, because that's all it needs to be.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be an expert in the ins and outs of all of this. There's a few key things that I'd make you aware of, but actually it's about teaching you to apply the knowledge you have. And again, it comes back to my point around creativity. It's being creative in your application of knowledge, which is a real issue in the industry, I feel. I mean, actually people aren't creative enough in how they approach things. If you're working with someone who has activity in their arms, but actually even though the weight of their arm is too heavy for them to lift, what are the regressions? They say we talk about progression and regression of exercise.
Yeah.
A lot of people wouldn't think about what are the regressions past body weight, which is something that actually in this population sometimes you need to think about. Yeah. It's exactly the same principles. Do we add stability? Do we reduce load? What are the things that we can do to regress past what a lot of people may think of as the baseline?
Yeah.
And there's things you can do. rather than doing if we just take a kind of front raise shoulder flexion kind of movement, rather than just perform that with a weight and a dumbbell, maybe you can use a band to assist it or whatever. Like, it's a regression past just the weight of their arm, but then that lets them get stronger, and then maybe in a month's time they can then move their arm, and then you are in the more traditional kind of progression infrastructure that you'd usually use. And it's just that slight change of thinking that, again, maybe people initially would struggle with if they didn't have someone.
So is
kind
it
of
looking
explain
at
that.
necessarily like a number of case studies over that 2-day period, let's say, and then, you know,
That is one of the ways we do look at some case studies that are informed by people I've worked with, and we look at, like, if you had this person who wanted to achieve this, what would you do? It's around creativity and progression and regression. My favorite part of it, and I think what was one of the fundamentals that I wanted to include, is what we call like simulation of impairment.
Right.
So there's things we can do that make it feel like you have a fused ankle, or we'll put you in a wheelchair, or we'll do all of these different things so you can actually experience a little bit of what it might feel like.
Right.
If you try doing a squat with a ankle fixed at 90 degrees, it's really, really difficult. And actually, therefore, then how can we problem solve around that movement? How can we still get the same benefits we're trying to get, even if we can't do the movement you would traditionally use?
Yeah.
If that then is an amputee, below knee amputee, maybe can't do a traditional squat, but can we do a lunge movement? Maybe. Can we do something like a box squat? Probably. Can we do a trap bar deadlift? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So actually, is there different movements we can do that get the same benefit?
Yeah.
That we just have to think a little bit differently about, if you get me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's it. I suppose it's just expanding horizons, isn't it, in terms of the exercises of choice? Because as you say, like an able body, if the squat machine is busy, they just find somewhere else to do squats, where actually it's just maybe thinking of a different type of exercise that still hits the same points, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just trying to think of, again, it's just creativity. It's just thinking outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a challenging thing to do sometimes if you aren't confident enough in your own knowledge.
Yeah.
And actually, it's safe to do the things that everyone else does.
I suppose a lot of coaches, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, and you can as well, is like they're getting to a certain routine as well.
100%.
Especially if they've been in the same facility, seeing the same type of clients, let's say, and then all of a sudden, you know, someone else comes up that's completely different, and it's just they're out of their routine.
My normal routine doesn't work anymore. Yeah, absolutely. Completely. And I think, again, it's just trying to... There's a lot of talk at the moment around us upskilling as an industry. You look at the professional standards that SIMSPA have recently brought in, I think are a really great change. And again, we'll get onto a point later around the healthcare world, but we as an industry need to have higher standards. I think for too long we've kind of accepted a too low of a standard because we could. Yeah. Actually, I think there's a lot to be said for us raising what is the acceptable standard. And actually, there's a lot of brilliant coaches and PTs in the industry, and we need to put them at the forefront and raise them up rather than accepting kind of a mediocrity of coach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Do you think it then, you know, we've talked about the fitness industry specific there in terms of, let's say, there are a lot of good quality coaches, but then I suppose, let's say, the disconnect between industries, and I'm talking like the medical and clinical industry compared to the fitness industry. Now, again, looking at it from the outside, because I haven't been a coach for a long time, the gap seems to have shortened slightly when I was a coach, talking 15 years ago, but it's still big. So where do you see like the biggest problems are, and why that's still not getting any closer?
Yeah,
or it's moving very slowly.
No, absolutely. I think that the biggest issues I feel come from a perception that the healthcare industry in particular holds around health and fitness. Yeah. And actually I kind of know this. So I, as I say, work with particularly two very, very experienced neurophysios who neither of them necessarily had a strong background in health and fitness. Mm-hmm. I don't think before working with me and our other S&C coach and PT at the foundation, they would have felt confident referring a patient to a PT to work with them. I think there was a perception around them not having the knowledge they needed, not having the skills they needed, for some reason that not being appropriate or safe or whatever. And that's not true. Like, I think we both know that there's a lot of great coaches who could make a real big difference to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I still think the perceptions exist from some healthcare professionals, not all by any means, that industry still isn't up to the standard it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I talk about raising professional standards. I think that'll go a long way into improving that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'm working on at the moment, one of my projects is I'm trying to working with some NHS teams to build a database of inclusive, accessible facilities and professionals, so that as an NHS clinician, for context, my wife works for the NHS.
Okay.
She's a community occupational therapist.
Yeah.
So she works in stroke rehab. So we have an awful lot of talk about brains and brain injuries around the dinner table. But and she, I think, up until without my recommendations, would feel really unsure referring a patient to a health and fitness facility.
Okay. But even on that, like one referring, but also where to refer to.
Where'd you go? What'd you do? I had a very well-respected NHS physio who a lot of people in kind of East Midlands would know, reach out to me a few weeks ago and say, I've got this tetraplegic wheelchair user, so tetraplegia, all four limbs affected.
Okay.
He really wants to go to a gym. I don't know where to send him. I don't know where to refer him to. So then I said, cool. Where is he? She said where his address was. Cool. I know this person who'd be great. Here's their contact details. Here where they are. I know the accessibility is good. I know they're great coaches.
Yeah.
I know the professionals are good. Yeah. And now he trains twice a week at a local gym. But they just don't know where that is. And actually, so if I can say, look, here's a website database, however the format is in the end.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Of saying, search by postcode, and actually then there's this person, this facility that will definitely be able to support you, and kind of we've almost assured is going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think we'll go a really long way and help both the professionals and the patients feel more confident in
so in terms of like bridging the gap, then it's not necessarily two industries working together. That would be great, but in a lot of ways sometimes that just doesn't happen, and it hasn't worked for a long time. But actually just providing the information, because now it's so accessible, like you said, internet, social media and stuff like that.
We're not trying to, we don't need the two to necessarily, not at the first point anyway, we don't need them to necessarily blend into one. But it's building the bridge between the two so that you can send people either way. Actually, so that healthcare clinicians can send people to health and fitness professionals and trust that they're going to get the service they need. But
outside of coaches, and obviously they can, like you say, they can have the right qualifications, they can be recommended on you based on what you know and stuff like that. Facility wise, and I'm bringing this into context in terms of, let's say, the database that we've just talked about in terms of the website. Where are we with terms of facilities generally? I mean, if you're talking about, again, a certain amount of people that are disabled in the UK compared to actually how many accessible facilities there are we painting a picture a little bit where a lot of gym owners, and this could be commercial, budget, independent, leisure centres, all of that, think they're inclusive when actually the reality is they're not? This
is where it's probably quite difficult, because I don't think there's a true thing that is universally inclusive. Inclusivity for one person and accessibility for one person is different to another.
Yeah, good point.
And actually, so from all the people I see, one space would be very accessible for some of them and then really wouldn't be for others. So I don't think it's so much around being inclusive, accessible across the board, full stop.
Okay.
It's about being forthcoming and open with what your accessibility is, and just having the information out there. If on your website I can see that there is step-free access from outside to the gym, and there's maybe a video walkthrough of that, I can see that I don't have to rely on getting a lift because lifts break all the time. Then I'm probably going to be more confident to go there. If I can get that information before I go without having to ring someone and ask, that's really, really helpful. So it's about being open and honest with your accessibility. People would much rather you say, actually, we do have steps and we're not that accessible, than you say, oh no, it can be fine, but then you have to go into the back cupboard and get the ramp out that no one's got, and then it's all a bit of a faff because then it's broken, and then it's people would rather say, actually, we're probably not the space for you, and then they can go and find somewhere that is. And actually trying to be, there's going to be gyms that aren't accessible, right?
Yeah,
there are gyms that are up a rickety flight of stairs, or if you think about particularly some of the gyms in central London that are down in kind of tunnels and bits that they're never going to be accessible, and that's fine. Not everywhere kind of like that has to be. I think public sector providers have a duty to be better. I know of one young woman who trains at a David Lloyd's. She's now having to drive about half an hour each way to the gym because her local one, the lift's been broken for about 8-10 weeks. And they keep saying, it's just broken, or it's getting fixed this week, and it just isn't, and it's not there. And it's things like that where, not to call out David Lloyd, sorry, but sometimes it needs it. But that happens all the time. You go to any kind of private or public sector operator, and if there is a lift, chances are at some point it's going to break.
Because it comes across of like it's just being fobbed off.
Absolutely. That it's not a priority, and I don't think that's really good enough anymore.
Not right. No, it isn't. No. So not everywhere needs to be inclusive, but the facilities that are, they just need to do better, right?
They just need to be more vocal and open about what they've got. Actually, I out of habit now, so I'm able-bodied, don't have any accessibility needs, but I will out of habit always try and ask anywhere I go, if I'm booking somewhere or on the phone or whatever, ask about accessibility so that it becomes a normal conversation. If I ask about it and the person on the phone says, I'm not sure, let me go and ask, then they go and ask. If then someone else rings in a couple of weeks, they're probably going to know about it. So it's just trying to make those normal conversations for people rather than being the odd one out.
And do you make a bit of a conscious effort to do that every so often, like go to facilities and make those phone calls? So
I took my daughter swimming the other week, and as we were leaving, I kind of just said, I don't suppose you guys have a pool hoist, so that a hoist that can help people get in and out the pool. And then she was like, we do, but it was, and the woman on the reception was a bit unsure around who was trained to use it and when and where and all this kind of stuff. So I was like, actually, maybe here isn't the best place for me to then bring someone if we were going to try and get in and out the pool. Absolutely. I'll try and kind of have those conversations.
Good.
There's been a few places it's something we can even do now where it's a service we can offer if people want it, where we can go and almost do a kind of informal accessibility audit. Nice. Where we can go and say, look, from what we would do is change this, tweak this, do that.
And are many facilities coming to you right now?
It's not something we've necessarily marketed much at the moment. It's something we've spoken about and we can do when we need to, when putting it. But I mean, just on that point, if you think about getting around a gym in a wheelchair, if you think the barbells are over here, where I want to go and use them is over this way somewhere. If you sit in a gym with a barbell on your lap, and then if you had to move around with this 6-foot bar on your lap this way, how much of the gym are you going to be able to get around without hitting someone or something? Probably not a lot of it.
True.
And it's just trying to get people to think a little bit more about how they lay things out, where they put things, where they store things, how they store things. I'll tell you where the best gym in the country is for it at the moment.
Go on. That was going to be one of more.
Loughborough Uni.
Base
at Loughborough Uni, their new gym they built a couple of years ago. They're very lucky at Loughborough in a lot of ways. They've got a lot of the Paralympic sports are based there, but they went and they had disabled students involved right from the start. They had Paralympic coaches involved right from the start. A good friend there, Alistair, who's their head of parasport, was very involved. So you've got difference in colour between working areas and non-working areas. So if you've got a vision impairment, you can see where you should walk and where you shouldn't a bit more easily. All of the weights are stored at waist height with nothing underneath them. So if you're in a chair, you can get really close, take them off rather than be up here.
Great.
If you think about most gyms, where are and not saying that disabled people can't lift heavy weights, but if you're a wheelchair user with impairment in your arms, you're probably going to be wanting lighter plates.
I agree. And I think,
where are they stored?
Apart from dumbbells, I'm just thinking now of my gym. Dumbbells are the rest, I'm not talking like your plates that you've mentioned, but all the functional training kit, it's all on racks and rigs. It's not like a section on its own.
And so it's quite difficult to get to it and access it sometimes. Whereas they've done a fantastic job of that. Rich Ellis, who kind of
I know
the
Rich.
gyms there. Rich is great. It's like shaking hands with a bear.
It is.
he's brilliant. He's great in being open with people who want to help in that way, and that's why we hosted our competition there last year. Great venue for it, and a gym that has done it really well.
Yeah, well, obviously we Erin specifically, obviously she's been leading the charge in terms of our partnership with yourself, but we kind of fundamentally believe in education as a forefront anyway, but
100%.
Specifically in terms of what you're doing. You know, we're still doing the final touches of the course, let's say, to make it ready, hopefully by springtime where people can come. But to start with, it will be hosted at your location to start with before potentially a little bit of a tour around the UK.
Yes, we're hosting it at the Get Busy Living Centre to start with. So it means that people can come and see our facility. Actually, we can talk about what we didn't do very well when we were building it and actually what we need to do better. But also see the space, meet the people. It's like as you said, you've been there. It's a special place to come.
It's definitely an experience to go to. You're not just going to a facility to get educated. It's the full kind of 2-day experience.
And then if there's demand, we'll hopefully kind of take that further afield.
Yeah, which I'm sure
after that,
and we'll push that forward. George, honestly, like I've known you for a few months now, and we've been talking back and forth, and it's always been interesting to have a chat with you, so I really appreciate your time.
Pleasure.
If people want to find out more about the foundation, more about the course, potentially more about yourself even, where's the best places to go?
Our website, our Instagram at Hambo Foundation is probably the best place to start. You'll see me on there, all our other guys on there. It's kind of a
great
whole host of different bits. There's a lot going on for the rest of the spring and the year for us. It's a big year. Hambo is being pushed around the London Marathon this year. He's got a team of 4 pushing him around that.
Great
so that's going to be big.
Yeah, awesome.
It's a busy year. So at Hambo Foundation on Instagram, we'll keep you all up to date with everything that's going on.
George, thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.